Hello guys, welcome to this channel. Today we're going to review Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince. I know I've been a little slow in video uploads. Had a bunch of lacrosse games. I've been wanting to practice a lot of guitar lately. I might start a music thing on the channel. I don't know. The problem is it's just taking, if I mess something up, one thing up, I have to keep recording. It's just going to take a while. And I even had trouble making the music for the Bond videos. So, with all that said, go check my Harry Potter playlist. I already started my MCU binge watch. I'm on Captain America. I'm on the Avengers practically. I'm almost done with First Avenger. So this video I'm gonna go finish that movie, and then go watch the Avengers right after that. Then Iron Man 3. Then Thor: The Dark World. And Guardians, Winter Soldier, Age of Ultron. So, yep. And then it goes on from there. So without further ado, I guess I can just get started. Starting out what this movie's about. This movie has Draco Malfoy and Voldemort's already sort of assembled his army, sort of, and then he wants Draco Malfoy to be the one to kill Dumbledore. So Snape does this whole thing with some breakable oath or whatever, and then we go on at Hogwarts. Sort of stuff is sort of going on involving trying to find out what Voldemort's backstory is, what he's trying to do, and you started learning a lot of things about him as the movie goes on, and then about Horcruxes. This is sort of when they're introduced, and sort of a normal year at Hogwarts until the end, I guess. Next up, we have the good. And starting off the good, I think the overall tone and sort of story, I kind of like how they kind of toned it down just a little bit, and then went back to start the storytelling 1 and 2, and sort of improved on it. Where those ones felt very episodic. This one is much more. I think I don't know if the story itself is cohesive, but compared to like the way it does the storytelling of 1 and 2, which it kind of does, it's much more cohesive than that. Some of the score here I think works pretty, just like Order of the Phoenix. I think the Goblet of Fire score is very but then the Order of Phoenix score was actually pretty good, and this one I think is even better. You got that whole Quidditch theme that I actually really like, that they use during the whole Quidditch sequences. It works pretty well, and the music when Dumbledore dies hits all the right notes, and I think works pretty nicely. Dumbledore's death, well, I don't really think it's that emotional, but it does work pretty to its standards pretty nicely, and you get some good characters like Professor Slughorn. I do quite like him. I like how Hagrid's a bit more in it than he was in Order of the Phoenix, and I did enjoy some of those Hagrid sequences. And as it picks up near the end, everything sort of keeps rising as you have the holding of the Vanishing Cabinet between Borgin and Burkes and Hogwarts, and as it sort of builds, Harry and Dumbledore go off on this little adventure, and then they come back, and then Death Eaters are here. And I think the way it all plays out works pretty well for the most part. I wish it was a little bit more actiony than it actually is, but it's whatever. I think the good action finales came back in both Goblet of Fire and Order of the Phoenix, so break, I guess. Whatever. And overall, I think some of the characters here I actually quite like. I like how Dumbledore and Harry's relationship is developed upon, and I think this is Dumbledore's probably best sort of role. It's this or Order of the Phoenix, I guess. And I think the actor does a pretty great job. So, and then I think other things, like I think some of the Quidditch sequences here are pretty good. It's nice to see Quidditch come here again. You haven't seen Quidditch in I guess you did see in Goblet of Fire, but barely any. I think the last time you actually saw a Quidditch game play out was in, I guess, Prisoner of Azkaban, but that was more to develop some of the Dementor stuff. I don't know. So, overall, I think there's a few good things in this movie. It's not without issues, of course. I like some of the new characters they introduced, like Professor Slughorn. They develop a bunch of stuff on the Death Eaters. You have what's it called? The whole thing with Draco Malfoy. I think they kind of develop him a bit more than they had in past films, where he's just the typical middle school, high school bully, pretty much, until this movie, where they make him a little bit more sympathetic, and they give him an interesting storyline, and I think it works pretty well. The mixed stuff, and the thing of this one is, first one, Voldemort's barely in it. Like, I think a lot of the mixed stuff, this is stuff like, you don't really care so much when you're watching the movie, but when you think back to it, it kind of bothers you. But that's kind of why I'm gonna force this, because I know there's be way too much stuff in the bad. Because yeah, so I think the absence of Voldemort, you don't really notice it until like you get near the end of the movie, and he doesn't really show up because for the storyline itself, there's not really a reason for him to do, because they're at Hogwarts. He's not gonna come in because the Death Eater stuff is there. That's not. But you wish he was much more present than he actually is. He's in like a couple scenes. He's in the backstory scenes, and then there's like a clip of him with the rings doing the thing, I guess. And it's just like you just want him to be there more or less. I don't know, with the way the story played out, there's not really a need for him to be there, but at least do the stuff with his backstory, and then have him show up during the final battle, or like maybe in the middle of the movie. They go off during Christmas, I guess. What happened during the Christmas part in this movie? I cannot remember. They go off during Christmas, and then they go to something, and then Voldemort shows up. Big little battle right in the middle. Or Voldemort could have showed up at the whole thing with the Weasley's house. I guess. Oh no, that's what happened during Christmas. What's wrong with me? Yeah. So then then a couple other things is just the overall story. Like, I think they focus too much on the relationships, just like Goblet of Fire, but it's not as egregious. I'm horrible with vocabulary. It's not as sort of noticeable and distracting as it is in that one compared to this one. It's that's my vocabulary level there. And then with this one, that's like literally the main focus. And I heard in the book that's like a smaller focus. And I think there are some other things, like I think I like how it kind of dives into Voldemort's backstory, but doesn't really do enough, so it kind of just I don't want to say undermines him exactly, but then you have but it doesn't really give him enough reason to sort of explain why he's sort of went mad or anything. So that stuff, I don't know if it quite worked. I'll talk about the relationship thing in a little while, but also another thing is that the desaturation level, it sometimes bothers me. Other times I can sort of look past it. Like when they're at Hogwarts, it doesn't bother me as much. But at the beginning of the movie, the whole desaturation thing to show that everything's getting darker, sort of is just like really. And then I think the way everything sort of takes a change for the worse. Like it goes from a complete gap between the fifth and the sixth one, where everything just becomes so much darker, and the seventh really, but the sixth and the seventh one I can sort of understand. I don't know, and the way it sort of continues on is a little odd, but yeah, that concludes the mixed stuff. Bad, and the main thing I don't really like, as I said, I don't love how they put focus on the relationship, but mainly Ginny and Harry. Every scene that they're together and it's just so awkward, and like, what were they thinking there? Same with the whole thing with the love potion right in the middle of the movie with Ron and this other person that only gets mentioned in one scene again, where I think she might have been dead. I'm not sure. And literally, like, it's all just not good. It really hurts the movie quite a bit. And I wish they just focused more on Voldemort and his backstory and trying to get the stuff from Slughorn, and instead of just focusing on relationships. I bet what happened with the planning process, they're like, what are we going to do in like the middle act? Oh, focus on the relationships. There was a partial focus in the book. I mean, I never read the book, but that's sort of what I've heard. I mean, I've watched book rankings and book reviews of the Harry Potter books, and I've read the first 2 books. So I'm a good enough fan. There you go. Clap it up for me. Bravo. For this movie's final score, I'm going to give it like a 7.1 out of 10. There's a bunch of things I just don't really care for. And I think the thing with this one, when you're watching it yourself, or myself, oh my god. When I'm watching it myself, I don't really think of a lot of the stuff until except all the stuff in the mix stuff, they're not really stuff I really think of while I'm watching the movie. It's sort of what I come back thinking about when I think about this movie. And then I think the relationship stuff is just so distracting and so, like, really. And the way they kind of divide or trade, they sort of did something like this in the 4th one. But in the 4th one, I think it kind of worked because Harry and Ron sort of already had that binding tension because Ron was jealous of Harry. And then this time, it's only because of relationships. Like, Hermione and Krum sort of thing was like, I think it kind of made sense with the way they sort of developed their characters throughout this movie. But in this one, it's just so distracting. I don't like it. So yeah, I think that's about it. Thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Let me know if you want to see music stuff. I don't know. I don't know if I'm gonna do it for the rest of the year, or school year, because I don't know if I'm gonna have time. But I might try stuff when I get back. So yeah, adios.